All right, guys, welcome back to another Prog Round Table. It's been a hot minute, as Ian says. Um, Today, because of the 40th anniversary of Dream Theater and them reuniting with Mike Portnoy, we're going to do a quick ranking of their discography, just studio albums from least to best. We're going to do three per turn, so this doesn't last for 4 hours. So I'm going to start with Ian because he's on my left. We'll go
Oh, hello.
myself, Nathan, Mike, and then Travis.
Okay, okay. So
So
am I picking any three that I want? The first three?
start with your
It's the last
least
three.
three favorites
Ooh, my least three favorite. Oh God,
Yes.
that's actually reasonably easy.
And
Let's
make it
see if I can.
spicy.
I will bring the spice. Don't you worry about that. I have no issues bringing the spice. I want to, and oh golly, which of these do I like the least out of the remaining ones? Oh yes, there we go. Okay. Oh God, I'm dropping them everywhere now. Okay, I'm gonna go from like least favorite to least favorite. From like 10 through to whatever. So we'll start with what I consider to be the worst Dream Theater album, and then we'll sort of work our way up from there. Unlike most people, I'm not going to be beating a dead horse with this one. The Astonishing is not my least favorite Dream Theater album. My least favorite Dream Theater album is the self-titled pile of garbage. I hate this. I hate this album. I think it's awful. I think it's a gigantic. No, no. It's real. Right. Okay. You see this opening track here, False Awakening Suite, right? Which for some reason they've split into three parts. It's 2.5 minutes long, and you split it. Stop that. No. You can split your epic into multiple parts. You are not splitting a 2.5 minute song into three parts. That opening suite is incredible. It's a hell of a good opening. It's like final boss battle. Let's go. This is cool as anything. This is the greatest music I've ever heard in my life. And then the rest of it, in a lot of ways, Dream Theater were being a true progressive metal band on this because they predicted AI generated music. Who knew? Who knew? Who knew that they would be such pioneers? I mean, I know Jordan Rudess likes to do technology and all that sort of thing, but I never realized he was quite so advanced as to be able to get an AI generated Dream Theater album from back in like 2000. What was it? 20. What the hell did this one come out? Was it 20? Was it that long ago?
2013.
Oh my gosh. This is
2013.
like 11 years
Yeah.
old. Yeah, 11 years ago, they predicted AI music and they made it with their self titled album. I think this is the most boring, tedious, trite, infuriating record they've ever put out. Nothing on here is memorable. Illumination Theory feels like it was written to be a long song for long song's sake. It's like, haha, look, we can do another 20-minute epic. I'm like, stop it. You have to still make it good. Good. No, hate it. Rubbish. I don't even want to talk about it anymore because it makes me angry. Do not like. I own it for completion's sake alone. That is it. No other reason. Hate it. Right. Moving on. Now that I've got that out of my system and I can never listen to the album ever again, we're gonna again go with the obvious pick here. It's the Astonishing. Yeah. Again, I don't actually explicitly hate this album. I actually don't. I think this album, in some ways, kind of unfairly gets trodden on because what you've got here is a fantastic single disc album. You do not need all of this fluffy nonsense. You have got like how many? 34 tracks. Ain't nobody got time for that. I'm sorry. This is like 2 hours. You could have done this in 1 hour and made a much better album out of it. There's so much filler on here, so much needless padding of pointlessness. It's just, oh my God. If they had trimmed this down to a single disc, got rid of all the bloat, all the silliness, actually embraced the concept a little bit more and got not just James LaBrie to do all the singing and like, because they did that single with Izzy Hale, which was really, really good from like, just incredible on it. If they'd actually done that, every character having their own voice and own singer, embrace that full sort of Arion style concept album, I think this would have been a much stronger much stronger effort. No disrespect to James LaBrie though, because he really does kill it quite incredibly well on this album. I think this is one of the strongest albums. But you can tell who wrote this album, you know? And I tell you one
Hmm.
thing, it wasn't John Myunk. It wasn't Mike Mangini. There's a lot of guitar on this album. Who wrote this? I wonder. Who could it possibly be? In that way, it kind of feels a little bit like a vanity project for John Petrucci for me, which is fine. No, like I say, there are some great moments on this album. Some bits of it I really, really love. I don't much care for the little weird little no max interstitial bits where Jordan gets he has to break dance on a keyboard or whatever, and it sounds really weird. I don't get it. But it's fine. Apart from that, it's perfectly fine. I just don't love it, you know? Right. And then coming up next, we've got not what I thought I was going to put here. I thought I was going to put something else here first, but it's Systematic Chaos. Possibly my first spicy take. Possibly my first spicy take. Yeah, yeah. I can see people nod. They're like, what the hell are you doing? Putting that as your third least favorite. What's wrong with you? Has this man gone mad? Yes, I've gone mad, mad with power. Ah, okay. When this first came out, I kind of liked it. I kind of liked it. But for me, the problem is that this does that one cardinal sin of Dream Theaters, which I really wish they'd stop doing. Y'all ain't edgy. Stop it. And doing progressive metal. Leave Slipknot to do the edgy, cool, raw, angsty teen stuff. Y'all are like Prog. Stop pretending that you're a new metal band. It's very embarrassing. Stop it. Like the Dark Eternal Night. No. I'm like, no,
It's still the
please.
best Mudvayne riff they never wrote.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. Forsaken has some of James LeBrie's worst vocals ever recorded, where he's like,
cringy.
I hate it. I really, really hate it. But that being said, and again, Prophets of War, don't even at me on that, because that's just, again, oh, look, we're Muse. Look at us. We've made a Muse song. Well done for you. I suppose it's still the best Muse song in years, though. But then on the flip side, you've got In the Presence of Enemies Part 1 and Part 2. Incredible. One of their best epics ever made. The Ministry of Lost Souls, do not sleep on that. Unbelievable. One of my favorite Dream Theater songs ever. Absolutely love it. The problem is the dross in between. Say the Dark Eternal Night, and then the unbelievably boring Repentance. I fall asleep to that song. It's so dull to me. I just don't enjoy it at all. It works in context with the rest of the AA suite, don't get me wrong. Love it in context with the rest of it. If you listen to it all as one big song, you know, Soul, Repentance, and then the Shattered Fortress, I believe it is. All in a row, incredible. But taken in isolation in the context of this album, it just doesn't really work for me. So yeah, unfortunately, maybe a spicy take, but Systematic Chaos just ain't really all that for me. So there's my first three out of the way.
All right, that's very interesting, Ian. I'm going to start with my least favorite being The Astonishing. We needed more than just Petrucci and Rudess doing an album. We needed, like you said, My Young or somebody there to say, no. Let's not make the same song 15 times over. The only saving grace this album has is the nifty vinyl box set.
Hey, I got that
Comes
too.
with like the map and pictures of the characters and stuff. Like, it's really well done, but that is the only saving grace for it. And coming in at number 14, I'm going to put the Self-Titled. Again, another album that is just shite. I don't, it's horrible. Elimination Theory to me is the only thing worth listening to on this album. And coming in at number 13 is their self-titled album. There's some really good stuff on here. Like, you could tell where they were gonna go, and they got to be condemned. They got to be commented for that. Like, it's got some great stuff. Horrible album cover.
It's really bad.
Yeah,
but we won't discuss that because Dream Theater is not known for their album covers. All right. I forget who I said was next.
I think it was me.
I think it was you, Nathan. Yeah, because you haven't moved. Okay.
All right, so it's very similar. So I really love all the Dream Theater albums. I'm gonna be probably the least roasty of the group.
That's all right. I've got my spice out of the way now. It's fine.
But number 15, I think I have to say, is The Astonishing. And I actually don't hate it. I think there's some good stuff there. Like's been mentioned, I think it could be trimmed into a better record. And when I first heard this, it was probably the first stream didn't grab me on first listen, and I'm like, there's all these ballads, and where's the Dream Theater-ness in it? And, like, it was just really weird. But I've liked it more over time. I showed my dad this record, and he actually really loved it, made me think of it in a new light. But compared to all, I think it's still the bottom, even if I do enjoy it. My number 14 would be When Dream and Day Unite, their first album. Just, it doesn't feel as much like a Dream Theater record as the rest because, obviously there's no James LaBrie on it, and a little bit unpolished compared to what would come next. And I just feel like they really refined their process with images and words in a much better way. There's some interesting things here, and it's not a bad record. It's still really good, but it just doesn't feel as classic Dream Theater to me of what I came to know as Dream Theater in their classic period. And then, yeah, I have to, I don't hate it as much as you guys do, but the self-titled one is next, which I just think is just because it's less memorable. Like, I don't remember as many tracks from it when I think about their albums. I'm like, what's on this one again? But I really do like the Epic. I do like Enigma Machine, I think, is a cool instrumental track as well. And there's some interesting little songs that I think are, they're not terrible. They're pleasant to listen to, but just somewhat forgettable. So I don't think it's necessarily bad, but compared to their other stuff, just not as great. So that would be my first three.
All right, Mike.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have a lot of the same overlapping. Here I've got my records here for my first three. So, come here. Oh, no. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Yeah, the worst, self-titled. I picked this one up on release day, and it's one of the few albums that I regret. I will go on record to say, yeah, I mean, I'll go on the record to say that I don't think this is a bad record. I honestly don't think Dream Theater has ever put out a bad record. This is as close as we get, and they are caressing the bad. The thing that saves it is, pardon me?
I said, but you didn't buy both the record and the CD on the same day, like dumbass me.
The CD is with my dad because I do not want it in my collection. So unfortunately, that still doesn't save me. Now, there are a few things that save this record. The False Awakening suite, I do enjoy that. It's a very pump up the jam and opening suite. I do like the Enigma Machine being another instrumental piece. And I really do enjoy the Illumination Theory, even though I think that midsection with the strings could probably be cut and be its own thing. But I still enjoy it. It's just the bigger picture, Behind the Veil, Surrender to Reason, and Along for the Ride are some of the worst songs that they've written.
But they're all the same song.
Yeah, they are.
It's all the same song. Yeah, it's like, let's do that, but more. And I'm like, ugh. So not my favorite. Don't listen to it very often. Next is their debut record, When Dream and Day Unite. And it's just because it doesn't really sound quintessentially Dream Theater. Like, I do love Afterlife. I really love the Yeats Jam. I love the Killing Hand. But you can see like they're very green on this record, and they're going to find themselves in their next album. So like it's like the DNA is there, but itself. It's like the flower is budded, but it hasn't bloomed. So it's still good, and I would still recommend checking it out. And then I actually have a very soft spot in my heart for The Astonishing. I don't know what it is. I genuinely love this record. Oh. Am I back? Or is it just Ian that's frozen? Okay, I think I'm still good.
You're
beautiful. Good. I love the Disney-fied version of Dream Theater. I love show tunes. I love Broadway. And so when they tried to do that on here, I'm like, yes, this actually works for me. But I know not everybody wants to hear Les Miserables in Dream Theater. I know not everybody wants to hear Fiddler on the Roof in Dream Theater. So I know I'm gonna want to listen to this record from front to back. I do feel as if it is more like a John Petrucci and Jordan Rudess solo project, because it isn't until like Act 2 that John Myung could actually be heard.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, you have to go through over half of the record in order to actually hear the bass.
I know
it's
they
not a
call him the
perfect
silent
record.
man at times, but
Yeah,
come on.
essentially.
Has anybody
Yeah, it's
seen
like-
that live?
I did. I
Ooh.
saw it live.
How was it?
It was gorgeous, and I wept. I did feel bad because John Petrucci was sick when he was doing that, so you could tell like he wasn't necessarily on his A game that night, but it was still very moving and very heartfelt. And listening through the entire thing played live, it was very. And honestly, it was one of the first times that like Mike Mangini, I appreciated his drumming style when I saw him play this entire thing live. So I will agree that it's not their best, but I think I hold it in a little bit of a higher esteem than most. So, those are my first three.
All right, Travis.
Okay, so for my first three, I'm starting with a bit of a spicy take myself.
Ooh, let's go.
I've been rearranging this list as we've been talking here. I actually have to start with my worst one, a dramatic turn of events.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah, that's a spicy one, but here's the thing, okay? When that album first came out, I hated it. Absolutely hated it. I thought Dream Theater had fallen. Coming off of Black Clouds and Silver Linings, of all things. And I have the receipts for this. On the Backs of Angels is a retread of Pull Me Under. It is. If you chart out of the song, what key they're in, what chord changes they're doing, the style of the guitar riffs, it is Pull Me Under with a fresh coat of paint. And the rest of the album, I just couldn't get into it. There was nothing that really, like, Bridges in the Sky just didn't connect with me. Outcry was never something I really enjoyed. And the only song on the album that really did grab me at all was, I can't even remember the name of it. That's how.
Was it Breaking All Illusions?
Breaking All Illusions.
Which is just learning to live again.
Which, yeah, it has that structure, but
Still.
still. And then they have the audacity to end the record on Beneath the Surface, which is just like, oh, that's so cheesy. Why?
Give me them nacho cheese.
It's not even good nacho cheese. And Lost Not Forgotten might be
I
the
love
other.
it.
Okay, Lost Not Forgotten is the other song that I almost enjoyed, except that there's progressive metal where you change time signatures and do funky little interludes in between your riffs, and then there's whatever the fuck that was. Oh, sorry.
Well, I guess Brent's not getting monetized.
Demonetized.
No money for you.
Whatever the heck that was. Like, it's like they would just interject these random little sections into like the middle of a verse. It's such immature writing. And then you've got, but he didn't participate in any of the writing sessions. All the drum work was done by Petrucci and the band programmed, and you can't really tell that it's a human being playing. It's better on paper than the other two albums in this section for me, but it's like the one Dream Theater album that every time there have been times I've come back to try to listen to it and found myself maybe digging a little. This is just one of those albums I never really think to come back and listen to. Unlike the next one on this section of the list, which is The Astonishing. It's not my least favorite album of theirs, but it does kind of remind me a bit of like Metallica's Load and Reload. Perfectly good album and a whole lot of padding.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of really good material on this record. I could even forgive some of the transgressions of the really cheesy plot and Come on, nefarious.
Lord Nefarious.
Oh, he's gonna get you.
And-
Oh, he's gonna get you.
Oh no, we've lost faith. What are we going to do now?
Although I'm going to give a little bit of a spoiler here because I've read the novel
Oh,
of
God.
this album.
Oh.
Travis is one of 5 people in the world who has.
And it actually gave an explanation of why he's called nefarious.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
'Cause they
I
couldn't
don't
come
remember
up
what
with
the
another
explanation
name.
was, but it was like a that actually makes sense. It's
Boy.
so
Uh,
there's a lot of really good moments on The Astonishing. You just have to sift through these cheesy Disney ballads to get to them. So the last one, the best of the last 3, is the self-titled. And I still say this isn't a great record, but it's better than I think some people make it out to be. I mean, without the enemy inside, I could do without a couple of the tracks, but the Looking Glass, perfectly serviceable Rush tribute. I mean, yes, it's Limelight with a fresh coat of paint. One of my favorite Petrucci solos. Illumination Theory has some good ideas. It has a lot of good ideas. It's executed a little oddly. And I could even get behind what's that one ballad off the record? Mike mentioned the song title, and it's not even. It's
Surrender to Reason, Behind the Veil,
no,
Along for the Ride.
Along for the Ride.
There you
That
go.
one, I can forgive that one too. It's got some really cool guitar work in it. The rest of the album's pretty forgettable, but yeah, I don't think it's among their worst. But there's some promise on it. There's like this little glimpse of something could be salvaged from it. So there you go. That's my bottom 3 Dream Theater.
Nice. The spy. I thought I was bringing the spice. I'm gonna fight back. I'm fighting back later on. You mark my words, Travis. I'm coming for you.
Oh boy.
all right, Ian, impress us.
Impress you.
The next ones. Yeah.
Ollie, okay.
10, 12.
Right, let's get a little bit more spice going on here, because you'll notice certain ones haven't appeared yet in my list. But that's from 10 to 12 or whatever it is. We've got their latest, You from Top of the World. It's okay. It's okay. It's kind of okay. A little bit of that symptom of feeling a little bit of Dream Theater by numbers, It feels like we moved on from AI art and we were on to paint by numbers with this one. It is fine. It's perfectly okay. My problem with it, and it's a problem that I've got with 2 of the albums in this next bit, not particularly memorable for me. I will only really remember bits of this album as I'm listening to it. I'm like, oh yeah, there's that bit coming up. Not like with some of the other ones, like the higher rated ones, where I'll be thinking to myself, I know I know everything. I could like a cappella this day. But again, it's fine. It's a serviceable album. It's not a bad album. It's just serviceable. The title track Epic, a lot better than Illumination Theory. But again, I struggle to recall parts of it, But it's good. It's a good album. A good album. Which is exactly the criticism I'm going to levy at the one coming next, which is Distance Over Time. Again, I liked that they would try something a little bit different with this. They were going for the shorter structures, the more accessible, more metal over prog. I kind of like that. There were some really good songs on here, Like Barstool Warrior is great. Love that. At Wit's End, Pale Blue Dot. Untethered Angels, one of the best singles they've had in a long time. It's great fun. It's got a great energy, good fun. Again, it still feels a little bit, much like most of the Mangini era, lacking in memorability. For all we can say about prog rock and prog metal, yes, it's dense, yes, it's complex, yes, there's plenty of stuff going on, which sometimes doesn't make sense. Dream Theater, for me, especially their early to mid works or whatever, they were still very memorable songs. You know, you can pick out, oh, here's Home, and straight away you can hear that do thing, you know, that's that style of thing. Or you could pick out, I don't know, The Glass Prison, and you go dun, 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 dun. You know, you get that. You pick out any of the songs on this, and I have to think for a minute before I remember what the hook was, what the main draw was for it. So unfortunately, Distance Over Time still lower down. But I'm an outlier here, and I don't care that I'm an outlier because I love this record. We're getting to now we're basically past that, and I'm into the records that I will objectively say that I love. And I love When Dream and Day Unite. I love this record. I think it's great. I love this. I love Charlie Dominici. I love the raw production on it. Everything sounds like a band full of punchy spunk and attitude, and they want to take on the world. And I love that attitude they've got going on with this.
Rest in peace, Charlie, by the way.
Hell yeah. Charlie Dominici, rest in peace. What a legend.
Look at these babies. Look at these babies.
No, they're all so adorable. I love it.
Look at those babies.
They're so cute. But The Killing Hand, I will say, right now is still one of the best Dream Theater songs ever. The version of that Marquee album where James does his vocals, it's unbelievable. It is unbelievable. It's so good. It's an incredible song. There's a couple of like sort of songs, like Light Fuse and Getaways a bit whatever, Status Seekers a bit whatever. But I love things like the really avant-garde, The Ones Who Helped Us Set the Sun. I think that is an understated masterpiece. I love it. Only a Matter of Time is great. The Killing Hand, as I say, is great. Fortune in Lies, what a way to start your discography. How cool is that song? It's just so iconic to me. I love that. I not enjoy it as much as I do, but I think it's a fantastic start. Yeah, it's not quite the Dream Theater we come to know and love, but it's a great statement. It's a really great statement piece, and I will always defend this album because I think it's great fun, and that's ultimately what it comes down to. I enjoy this album because it's just fun to me. So hell yeah. Hell yeah, there we go.
My number 12 and 11 are for the same reason that they're in this order, is because Mike Portnoy decided he wants to be Cookie Monster. So we have Systematic Chaos, and then slightly better.
Ooh.
But even better than those two, and this is going to cause some grief, I'm sure. Flying into Infinity.
Leave my baby alone.
No.
You leave my baby alone.
I think
it's all right, Brent. You and I together. You and I together.
Ever gives it credit for. Just saying. I'm right.
Oh boy.
Oh, good. Nathan.
All right. So mine number 12, which has been mentioned, Systematic Chaos as well. I love.
We are wounding.
Kravis is gonna blow up.
I mean, I love In the Presence of Enemies, part 1 and 2. That's some of my favorite Dream Theater of all time. But In the Middle is kind of a mixed bag for me. Work, them trying to copy other styles that maybe don't fit them quite as well. And so it just isn't my favorite. And even Ministry of Lost Souls kind of wanders a bit for me. There's parts of it that I love, but I think it could be like chopped down a little bit, but you know, quibbling with it. I still like it, but it was disappointing at the time when this was like the period I was the most into Dream Theater was when this came out.
Hey.
My next records are behind me on the wall. I have Distance Over Time, of one of their more recent records. And after that, A View from the Top of the World, kind of similarly, like I think they're solid records, have a lot of cool stuff, but maybe because they're newer, maybe just because this is how they are, they're not as memorable as some of their other material. Like has been mentioned, I have songs that I don't quite get a lot that I take away from it. You know, I like it when I'm listening to it. I think it's really solid, but maybe it doesn't hit me quite as hard as some of their other records. I think View from the Top of the World was because I just like some of the epicness. I feel like Distance Over Time was a little bit more shorter tracks, a little punchier, but them kind of trying to return to more rock roots after The Astonishing But I thought View from Top of the World was a bit more proggy and these more extended pieces and kind of going back to their classic era. So I like that a little bit better, but they're pretty similar in their rankings. So those would be my 11 and 10, I believe. Yeah.
What do you have,
I
Mike?
guess yeah. So 12 and 11 are for me interchangeable. If you put like these two track lists and like shuffled them, I wouldn't be able to tell you which was from one album and which one was from the other. And that is from and honestly, I can't tell you which one would be 11 and 12. For me, it's almost like they're the same album. It's just more of. I think in terms of how I have it rated, I have Views from the Top of the World as number 12 and Distance Over Time as number 11. But in my head, I couldn't tell you which songs were from which one. I like how they are maturing as a band and kind of the post Portnoy era, and I feel as if they're starting to find themselves on these two albums, which is a little bit of a double-edged sword because now he's back. So it's like just as they were starting to figure out how they were in this kind of landscape, they're like, well, he's back now. So, and I mean, I enjoy both these albums. Like, there's no low point, but as I keep saying, I couldn't tell you what was on these albums. My number 10 might be a little I'll be in Camp Brent with Falling Into Infinity. Not to say that Falling Into Infinity is a bad album. I'm not saying that at all. I think what happened was the studio and the producers got in the way of the artistic vision of the, and I think you see that that's kind of suffered. Now I still love some of the big standout tracks on here. I love Lines in the Sand. I love oh boy, what else is on this album? Because I don't actually, these are the three albums that I don't own in physical format. I know. I do have Views from the Top of the World, but I kept it at the cottage because my dad likes that album. Okay, I love Peruvian Skies and being a half a Pink Floyd track and half a Metallica track. I already mentioned Lines in this. I do enjoy Anna Lee, and that's mainly because I saw them perform it live. And when James LeBray came out on a bar stool and spent most of it just sitting on the bar stool, I'm like, that's beautiful. I friggin' love that. And Trial of Tears is fine. I don't really have but like I can see where they wanted to take this record and the studio being like, well, let's just try to redo Awake and let's try to redo Images and Words. And they're like, well, we want to grow past that. We want to do something a little bit different. And they're like, well, money. And they're like, well, we want to do, this artistic thing. So part of what, like, I still like this album and there's still aspects of this album that I really enjoy. It's just, I can see what this album should be. And in fact, when I listened to this record, I listened to the demo.
I got those recently.
Because this is the better album, the actual demos. It has Raise the Knife, which is the best track from this album, and it wasn't even included in this record. But all of the ways that they ideas, this was the demos of where we wanted to go, sound better than the actual album that we were given. And that's just my opinion.
With Scenes from a Memory is like a 20-minute effort.
It is. The last side is Scenes from a Memory Part 2 in its original form of a 20-minute song. Because that's how they wanted to end this album off. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, like if they were going to go in this direction, Scenes from a Memory Part 2 would be a single song rather than a full album. So a little bit of a double-edged sword in that sense.
I like that we can experience both though through the demos, though, which is cool.
Now that we can experience both through the demos, I'm okay. But this is the superior version of that.
Agreed.
So that's why I have it there. That's me.
All right, Travis.
All right, I think we're on to me now. And this next trio of albums, I think there's also going to be some spice in here. There might be enough that Britain might invade me. So
you're on warning already with how you treated a dramatic turn of events, young man. So help me, I will summon the King's Guard.
The Redcoats are coming.
So I'm going to start with two that are maybe a little more expected. A View from the Top of the World. I think it's a good album. Like, it's a good album. It's not a great album. It's not an album that I'm gonna, remember when I'm 80 years old in the old age home with Alzheimer's, Dream Theater, and whatever physical format they have in the 2040s. Or that's not that long.
I was going to say, that's only 20 years away, my
You're
friend.
aging yourself up there, Travis. My goodness.
But I'll be that old man at the old age home. I just want to listen to Metropolis again. But then, I still think there's some good material on this record. You know, uh, Nothing very memorable though, and that it's just not a very memorable record. Um, so the next one after this is Black Clouds and Silver Linings. And I mean, on the one hand, this album has A Nightmare to Remember on it. On the other hand, this album also has A Nightmare to Remember on it. It's one of those records where it frustrates me because there's so much really good material. At the best of times is just a beautiful song. Um, you know, The Count of Tuscany, if I ignore the lyrics, it's a
No,
really
they're the
good...
best ever.
Dude gets scared and then hides. What don't you like?
Shattered Fortress does a pretty good job of tying together the AA suite. A Rite of Passage is okay. I think the funniest part is that there's an iPhone solo.
Oh God, there is, isn't there?
It's actually in the sheet music book that I own for it. It's labeled iPhone solo. The Bebot app.
Incredible.
I have that app. It's so funny. And then Wither is just kind of generic. But then you get A Nightmare to Remember, and it's like, it has a mix of some of the best elements of Dream Theater, and there's some really cool moments, the really gorgeous atmospherics of that middle section. Nice, kick you in the balls, bluesy riffs, and solos, like some of Petrucci's finest moments. And then you even get blast beats in the end, like, damn, Mike. But then you get Mike Lagerfeld for 10 seconds, and you're just like, God damn, Mike.
Yeah.
Why? Why did you ruin this? We were having a moment and you ruined it. I have seen them play this song live, and I liked the way James handles that part, as you can hear on the Distance Over the Live at London release. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Really, yeah, I like the way he handled that section.
Isn't there a version of that song where Mikael Åkerfeldt does that bit? I swear I heard there was.
I believe when they played Progressive Nation,
with Opeth, and he came on as well for one of the AA
Repentance.
suites, the one from Repentance.
Yeah, Repentance.
Because that's on.
It's
Yeah,
very
so I think he
Opeth-y
comes
kind
on.
of melody.
He comes on every once in a while to sing with them.
So my number 10 album is Octavarium.
Ooh.
I'm dropping this call, Travis. I'm going to leave.
Ooh, okay.
It's low. Look, if the title track was a single, the same way A Change of Seasons was, it would be my number one Dream Theater release of all time. And I actually have a very, I'm going to say, soft spot with this album, but objectively, well, subjectively on my part, but there's so much about this album that disappoints me. From just some really sappy material, and these walls might as well be it might as well be a Breaking Benjamin song as far as I'm concerned. I Walk Beside You. They're just treading Coldplay ground. Never Enough is Muse's Stockholm Syndrome with a fresh coat of paint. Dream Theater on this album, minus the title track, sounds like they're trying to be other bands. Like, they've always been really good at incorporating influences from other bands into their style, but I think this is, maybe with the exception of some stuff on Train of Thought, this is the first time I've ever heard Dream Theater and thought, they don't sound like Dream Theater anymore. They sound like Muse. They sound like U2. Even The Root of All Evil, which is one of the highlights on the album for me. To me, it sounds like the kind of music that like a WWE wrestler would walk out to. It's like the most like needlessly macho Dream Theater song. I wish the whole album was as good as the title track, because that would put it at least within my top 5. But a single song on its own doesn't make an album good. I think Octavarium kind of deserves to be this low for me, because when I take the other albums ahead of it as entire works, I like them better, even though that none of them have a song that I like more than the. But as complete works, everyone above this to me is better. So there you go.
Fair.
That's my
Very
my
fair.
10 through 12.
Oof.
Told you there'd be spice.
I like
Yeah.
the spice though.
The spicier, the
So
better,
you-
boys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we,
oh, yeah.
we will get to my thoughts and opinions on Octavarium later.
What's up next, Ian?
What's up next? Okay, let's start off this next round. We are on, what number are we on? We're on
We are 9, 8, and 7.
9, 8, and 7. Okay, how exciting. Okay, coming in at number 9 for me, it is Black Clouds and Silver Linings. I still really like this album. Like, I'm at the point now where I like all of these albums. So I'm going to dunk on some parts of it a little bit, because some parts of it do deserve to be dunked on. As Travis has so elegantly pointed out, Mike Portnoy should never be allowed near a microphone unless he's in flying colors. Just otherwise, just stop it. You know, it's just not allowed. You can, if you, right, you compare, right, Fool in My Heart from Flying Colors, right, where he sings beautifully, compared to him pretending to be Mikhail Ackerfeld and failing miserably on Nightmare to Remember on this. And it's just like, is this even the same guy? I don't even know. But I don't want to dunk too hard on that because we've already talked about that. But A Rite of Passage and Wither are fine. Singles go, it's fine. Better than Forsaken, which I think is still one of the worst Dream Theater songs ever made. I hate it so very, very much. But then you do have like, kind of like was just last tracks bookending it, which were incredible. You've got front and back track on this bookending it, which was incredible. But you've also got the Shattered Fortress and the Best of Times, which are also really, really good as well. But all joking aside, and all memes from the Count of Tuscany's lyrics to being, you know, a bit of gentleman, my brother, something about wine, etc., blah, 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 and then wait a minute, man, and all that sort of stuff. You know, we love it. We love the Dream Theater lyrics memes. They're great. It's a brilliant song. Musically, it's fantastic. Musically, it blows my mind every single time. That bit at the end when the acoustic guitar comes in and like then the keys, I love it. It's so good. It just chills every single time. I love that song. Count Tuscany is one of my favorite epics by the band. Love this record. A couple of little moments on it, but it's not enough to diminish how much I feel about it overall. So, yeah. Right. My spicy take, and this is my get back at Travis. I'm getting back at you. You hear me? You American. I'll have you. You'll see British Empire will rule again. It's Train of Thought.
Ooh,
We're getting Train of
gonna...
Thought down here. Yes. Still very much love to Train of Thought. You're not Master of Puppets. Stop trying to be. Stop it. That's the first thing I'm going to say. Okay. Y'all ain't Metallica. Y'all ain't got that gruff James Hetfield thing going on, James. You're still a prog rock singer who sings falsetto. Stop trying to be. No, I do love Train of Thought a lot. I do find it's still got a little bit of that unnecessary angst and cringe going on. That's sort of like culminated in systematic chaos. Like, As I Am, we get it. You want to be edgy. Honor Thy Father. Yes, Mike Portnoy, you're very angry. We appreciate that. But then, oh, you've got Endless Sacrifice. Oh, God, I love that song. Endless Sacrifice is so freaking good, man. It's so good. And then with Stream of Consciousness, In the Name of God, and This Dying Soul. Oh, class act songs, every single one of them. Just a little bit too much angst for me in my dream theater. Save that for, like, I don't know, Protest the Hero or something like that. You know, no disrespect. I'll be speaking about them in another video coming up later. No, Train of Thought, very good, but not quite my speed. And now we get to the delightful defense of one of my personal favorite Dream Theater albums, and the one I will defend to the death if I have to, Falling into Infinity. I love Infinity. I friggin' love this album. I think it's fantastic. I think everybody goes, "How? It's terrible. Shut up. Leave it alone." It's very, very good. I will fight for it. You know that meme where like holding back support, like, oh, you know, it's like, that's me with Falling into Infinity. It's like, get away from it. It's incredible. You've got, okay, yeah, there's a couple of songs on here which aren't great. New Millennium's kind of whatever. You Not Me, You or Me is much better. You know, the demo version is so much better. But Peruvian Skies, love it. Hollow Years, love it. Burning My Soul, Hell's Kitchen, love it. And then Lines in the Sand, Take Away My Pain, Just Let Me Breathe, Anna Lee, and Trial of Tears. That in a row is so good to me. Except my problem with Anna Lee is you really want to be very careful how you pronounce it. I'll leave the rest up to you. Let's just say if you pronounce it differently, the lyric, "Don't want to be alone, where do you belong, Anna Lee," takes on a slightly different meaning if you're very, very careful. Got into that, kids. You can figure that one out for yourself. No, I love Falling into Infinity. I think it is a deeply underrated album. It was a troubled album, yes, and I will acknowledge that. It could have been something a lot different, sure. But I really do think that the band's heart was still in it. I think it really gets so much flack when you compare the fact that there's some of their best songs ever written on here. Literally, if you were to take Trial of Tears, Lines in the Sand, and just put them into a mix of best Dream Theater songs, they'd probably be my top 10. I love those songs. And because of just those two alone, as well as all the other bits that I really appreciate about this album, it's got to be riding high for me. So I might be the person who rises the highest in the list, but I'm okay with that because I will champion the little guy with this one. So yeah, there we go.
Nice. Coming in at my number 9 is Distance Over Time. Probably my favorite Mangini album. I think it's the best and the only one he deserves. He gets a songwriting credit on this. I think he also does on the self-titled album too. I should have looked that up. And coming in at number 8 is Awake.
Exercise to see how much Ian can take.
And at
I'm
number
leaving.
7,
Screw this, I'm leaving.
Train of Thought at number 7.
Yeah.
Are you okay, Ian? Do you need a minute?
Find your center.
Hey, if we all have the
Find
same
your
opinion,
center.
it'd be really boring.
Yeah.
That's true.
All right, Mr. Nathan.
All right. So my number 9 is Falling into Infinity. I think this is a great record, and I think it was a cool kind of shift in their sound, bringing a little bit of maybe a pop element, but still not forgetting who they are and having some really cool tracks on here. Love Peruvian Skies, love Trail of Tears, all of that stuff. I even like the opening New Millennium, I think is actually pretty cool. Lines in the Sand, of course, is a classic. So yeah, I believe it's a little bit like disregarded when it's one of their better albums. I really like that one. I like putting this at number 8, Octavarium. I feel like it's fitting in this spot. Kind of similar to what's been said. I like it. The epic, of course, like it's hard to argue that that's one of the best things they've done. But I kind of agree that a lot of the tracks in the middle are, a grab bag. Some are not as good as others. And I don't really like some of the cheesier ballad type stuff that they do sometimes. I love the opening. I love Root of All Evil. But yeah, some of the middle songs are just like variable in quality. So that's why it ranks slightly lower than some of the other stuff to come. But bad stuff. And then my number 7 is Train of Thought, which originally I wasn't as much of a fan because it's more of like the heavier metal stuff that they do, but I really like how cohesive it is. I think it fits the most together as an album, and it's like the perfect length. And some of the lengthier tracks are just really incredible. I love Endless Sacrifice. In the Name of God is one of my favorite tracks from them. Just a wonderful epic to close it. An incredible instrumental track. It just has everything you want, and it's really concise for them. I think it's one of their shorter albums, but it's really great and just really love it. All great albums.
Perfect. All right, Mike.
I think it's my turn. Okay, so my number 9 is Dramatic Turn of Events. I know. I still love this record, and we're getting into the good stuff. We're getting into the really good stuff. I do agree with Travis in that this is Images and Words 2.0. Angels is just, a retread or a different coat of paint for the images. Oh gosh, I'm so embarrassed.
Pull me under.
What thing? Yeah, I'm tripping over my feet as I'm, yeah, Breaking All Illusions is just, Pull Me Under. That's the one. On the Backs of Angels is just Pull Me Under. And Beneath the Surface is just not Waiting for Sleep, because I'm looking at the wrong one. Again, just 2.0. But I do really enjoy a lot of the other tracks on here. I still love Lost Not Forgotten. Bridges in the Sky, I think, is one of my favorite tracks from them. Just that big, like, whoa.
The throats.
Had more throat singing and less growling, I think we would have a lot better discography from Dream Theater. I love that chug. And Outcry, I love a lot of the different snippets that we have throughout it as well. And I believe that's a Myung track. I think, like, in writing. No, which one is it?
Breaking All Illusions.
Breaking All Illusions is.
Yeah, he wrote the lyrics for that, I think, didn't he?
That's the one.
But
I knew
half
it was
the
one of them on
lyrics.
here.
Oh,
Half of
okay.
them. Yeah. Anyway, I still thoroughly enjoy this one, and yeah, it surprised me of how much I enjoyed it, because I was just like, oh, it's not Dream Theater unless it's Portnoy, but I'm like, oh no, this is actually really good, and this is the one that I enjoy the most post Portnoy. So love that one. Unfortunately, I don't have this one in physical format here. It's with my dad. So number 8, I am going to ruffle some feathers, is Awake. I know. I agree with Brent in that it is a solid number 8. I love many moments on this record. I love how the second half flows very well, like as a cohesive flow. I love the 3-part suite that's in the first half, but they would do better stuff. And there are moments on this record that I love. I love the mirror. I love how heavy and how dark it is. But again, they would do better stuff. And kind of coming onto this side of the better stuff, I also have Train of Thought, and I love this record. I love how raw it is. I think I'm a little bit more favorable of this record than a lot of others. Again, much like what Nathan was saying, I love how cohesive it is. I love how unified it is. Like, I don't think any other album has the same kind of sound from start to finish as this does. And I love overall Train of Thought. It's very Stream of Consciousness. And that track of Stream of Consciousness is the best instrumental that they've put out. And yeah, I'm going to say that over Dance of Eternity. I know I'm weird. I'm going to say that. I know that's very spicy, but what I love is the build up and the payoff. Like, this is a prog metal instrumental to perfection. And even though In the Name of God is basically just like wankery in terms of the the shredding, once we get to the midpoint or I'm like, okay, you're not Joe Satriani, right? Like, I know what you're trying to do here. You can take a seat, enjoy and embrace your own style. But yeah, I love what is it? Honor Thy Father with that Don't Cross the Crooked Step. Oh, when that hits. Like, I crank that sucker. I'm just like, let's go. You don't have to play a mile a minute in order to be the heaviest track that you've ever written. So yeah, I have very fond memories of Train of Thought, and yeah, that's why it's starting to become on this side of the halfway mark.
And
So
a
that's
goofy
9
album
through
cover.
7. Yeah.
All right, I guess it's my turn now. Okay, so my number 9 album is Systematic Chaos. Um, I don't have as many complaints about it as maybe Ian does. I do think Forsaken is not their best song. Uh,
I'm done with you. I'm done
done.
with you.
You guys keep pooping all over my favorite album.
and Prophets of War doesn't really do it for me, but I think the rest of the album is pretty decent. I mean, you got, which is easily one of their best multi-part epic works. I quite like the sort of thrashy nature of Constant Motion. The Dark Eternal Night, I could probably do without some of the vocals, but I'm a big fan of like cheesy 2000s new metal, and like I said, it's the best Mudvayne riff they never wrote.
Hell
The
yeah.
Repentance is a good little, you know. I think the solo is one of Petrucci's best and most tasteful. Um, Ministry of Lost Souls, that out solo just tugs at my heartstrings every time. The way it changes keys. Oh.
Yeah. I love that song.
So my number 7. My number 8 album is Distance Over Time.
Ooh.
I'm the outlier here in that I have a Mangini album up in the ranks, and I have to say this is my favorite Mangini era album, hands down. Just because they've really upped the quality from the Astonishing and the self-titled, and you have one of their best singles in years with Untethered Angel. I really liked Fall Into the Light with its more subtle kind of approach with, like, yeah, you've got the thrashier riffs, but then in the middle you get that acoustic section of like guitar shredding. It's just gorgeous harmony guitar parts, and I really love that. It kind of reminds me a bit of and Justice for All era Metallica a bit in that way. Barstool War, it's a real tongue twister to play. Um, Signal to Noise, S2N, to quote Owen Wilson, wow. um, yeah, it's a really good track with just a really beautiful outro. Pale Blue Dot might be their best epic in a while, even though it's just shy of 10 minutes. I still call it an epic. And I like the bonus track Viper King because when I was a kid, Dodge Viper, and that's what this song is about. It's about cars. So
the Haken track. Let's be real.
Yeah, the Haken track. And I laughed when Michael said this album. Oh, with the exception of Ian, I think all of us have made it our number 7 record, Train of Thought.
Ah. Oh yeah.
And so this is the first album Dream Theater released after I first became a fan. I became a fan after 6 Degrees, so this was the first album of theirs I anticipated the release of. And like I downloaded As I Am on like my school computer during a computer class in high school. Um, there's a lot of great material on this record. I mean, Endless Sacrifice is just one of the they've put
Oh,
out.
good.
Michael mentioned Honor Thy Father, and that chugging.
You have summoned me.
It makes me not care that there's no guitar solo in that song. There's a little synth solo, but who cares? It's just Jordan Brutal.
He does that,
He
from
does
time
that.
to time.
And this Dying Soul, I mean, who would have expected to hear rap rock in Dream Theater? I mean, but this Dying Soul is among one of the first few songs I will play anytime I pick up a 7-string guitar for the first time. So
Hell yeah.
yeah, my numbers 9 through 7. There you go.
Perfect.
Oh, how exciting. We're getting to the really good stuff now,
Getting
kids.
to the good stuff.
Okay, 6 through 4. Let's go. Right. Okay, let's not beat around the bush. Number 6 is Octavarium. I love Octavarium. I love it. I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Again, much in the same way for Travis, this was the first album I anticipated after becoming a fan of theirs. I got on board with Trading, but it wasn't the first album I listened to. The first album that I listened to, I think, no, it was A Change of Seasons, so that doesn't count, but whatever. But this was the first album of theirs that came out after I jumped on the bandwagon, effectively. And I love this. For all the criticisms about it effectively being a covers album, in everybody's style, from like U2 to Muse and all that sort of stuff. Legitimate criticisms, don't get me wrong. Absolutely appreciate that. But for me, musically, I think this is one of the most diverse albums they've put out. I love how different each of the songs feels as a result of, maybe just aping the style of others, whatever. But then you get to the end of it. Sacrificed Sons and the title track. Now, the lyrical content of Sacrificed Sons is a little cheesy. Okay, we get it. Musically, me like it lots, I love it. This is one of the teddy bear's picnic motif that comes into it is so good. I was like, yo, what are you doing? Teddy bear's picnic. Last, who knew we needed this? Okay, that's the thing. I love it. I think it's incredible. Musically, I love this album so very, very much. And do not get me started on the title track. I'll be here all night, kids.
I will give you credit. The diversity is a plus.
Yeah,
there's a lot of Dream Theater albums that sound very homogenous, and then
every track's different.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I will give you that.
The title track alone, though, I could write a thesis on this. It's musically incredible. The depth of just the fact that they've managed to weave so much into it. That little bit where he's in first, second, up to octave. The way you've got bits of each of the individual tracks playing in reverse in the background and stuff like that. That is inspired genius, and I love it so much. And then the final solo at the end, on a razor's edge. I love it. It's so good. Here we go. Go. Do it. Oh, no pressure.
Plugged in.
I don't remember it off the top of my head.
But regardless, Last FM stats at least is my most played song of all time. I have played it so many times. I have listened to it for hundreds of hours over the course of however long it's doing. Unbelievable. The rest of the album's good. I wouldn't say the rest of the album's great, but is alone enough to propel it this high in my list. It is superb. It is the one Dream Theater song I would say from a burning ship if there was, everything else was up for grabs. Octavarium is a perfect song. Great album. Love it. Okay. My Children. A dramatic turn of events. Yes. I love it. I love a dramatic turn of events. I friggin' love this album. I think it's fantastic. I love every single song on this from start to finish. I think this is wonderful. Again, I see Travis's criticisms. I appreciate them. No, I disagree. I love it. I think Breaking All Illusions, right? And Outcry, Bridges in the Sky, This Is the Life, Lost Not Forgotten. All the only song on this I don't really like is Build Me Up, Break Me Down. I think it's a little bit eh.
Yeah.
But for me, the rest of it is just so good. It felt like the band were facing the challenge of losing Mike Portnoy and really sort of thinking to themselves, you know what, we're not lying down. We are going to keep carry on with what we're doing. And I genuinely believe that A Dramatic Turn of Events is one of the best albums of their career with some of the coolest and most interesting sounds that they put out in years. I love it. I love this album. Right. Maybe we're getting into spicy because there's only 3 more to go for this. So at number 4, Images and Words. Uh-oh. Oh no, it's not in the top
no.
3. Uh-oh. Yeah, I love no, don't get me wrong. Okay, Images and Words is incredible. Every song hits, everything is brilliant. Nobody can in their right mind deny that this is a bad album, because it ain't. It's great, it's wonderful, it's brilliant. But for me, the strength of the next 3, which we'll get into, and figured out what the last 3 are anyway. I love it. It's an unbelievable album. It was a real step up from When Dream and Day Unite. It was like first proof of concept, and now look at what we can do. You know, the fully armed and operational battle station that was Dream Theater, and they have fired out one of the most incredible progressive rock and metal albums of all time with this. Unbelievable. Every song lands. It is brilliant, but it's just not quite as good as the next 3 for me. So yeah.
Thank you, Ian. My number 6 is their latest one, View from Top of the World. It's the most Mangini Portnoy sounding album out there. It's a great album for him to go out by. Biggest criticism on this album is that Invisible Monster song. Yuck! It just irks me so much. But anyways, now for the biggest controversy that I'm going to have tonight. This is number 5 for me. And it is probably the most...
Whoa.
That's the spiciest one yet.
Wow.
Excuse me, what?
That's Carolina Reaper spicy. Whoa. Brent, I love
pepper
it.
spray.
Yeah, Scoville's off the chart.
Respect, though. Respect for being true.
It's their most overrated. There, I said it.
Whoa.
And then I'm gonna... All right, now that that's over and messed with, number 5 is going to be A Dramatic Turn of Events. This album
Hell yeah.
holds a very emotional...
Wow.
Went through an emotional time with this, getting divorced. This album was kind of my saving grace, going through losing my wife and my son, and yeah, it kept me alive. So
yeah,
I'm not going to comment too much on the music, as Ian said pretty much how I feel about it. But yes, this album, number 5, or no, because be number 4.
I almost feel bad for making that my worst now.
Oh, boy.
It's all good.
That's okay. I haven't told my personal relationship with Octavarium. It's a little dark.
I like dark.
All right.
Well, I'm going.
Nathan, what's up?
All right. So for me, at number 6 is Awake. Maybe low for some people, but this is where it sits for me.
Y'all are all off the Christmas card list.
Which we're into like super great records. I really love it.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing. It's really cool follow-up to Images and Words. I didn't think it quite matches Images and Words to me, but there's so much great stuff on it. And I just really, really enjoy it, but it's not quite as personally like fulfilling to me as a listener. It's one of the later ones that I discovered personally. So never really grabbed me as much as the first ones that I came across. So number 5 is Black Clouds and Silver Lining. Higher on this than the average, but I really loved it when it came out. I just thought it was excellent, and to me, Nightmare to Remember and Count of Tuscany are like maybe 1 and 2 of my favorite Dream Theater songs. Like, I just really adore those. I know to each of them in different ways, but to me that kind of adds to the fun and the charm of them as well. And I just think musically they're excellent, excusing the weird Cookie Monster vocal thing from Mike Portnoy, which I don't mind quite as much. I think it's maybe a bit silly, but
Slightly charming.
yeah, it's kind of
No.
funny. Like it adds to the charm of the record.
It's like, no,
And
it's not. It's
Don't
terrible.
encourage him.
And I love
Sorry.
the Best of Times. I think that's really a
Mm.
great heartfelt
Yeah.
tribute song, and it's beautifully done. And I think Shattered Fortress is an excellent closing to the whole 12-step suite. It like takes everything from what came before and wraps it up in a cool little bow. So I think that's a cool piece of it too. So and my number 4, Dramatic Turn of Events, which I
Yeah.
really love as well. Meaningful record for me too, and I just like after Mike Portnoy left, I was kind of stunned and like, what are they going to do now? And to me, this was kind of the perfect answer to that. Like, they're still going to be going strong. I think it's still a really super solid album. All of the tracks are amazing to me. Like, they're all the lengthier tracks. I think they go in a lot of cool different directions. Breaking All Illusions is one of my all-time favorite Dream Theater tracks. I think it is brilliant and has that just perfect blend of cool prog stuff in there with their prog metal sound. And so, yeah, maybe there's a couple of the like Build Me Up, Break Me Down isn't my favorite thing. And Beneath the Surface can be a little too pretty well done at the same time. So, but it's always an album that stuck with me because it was a real relief that, okay, Dream Theater is going to keep going and they're going to be able to produce great music. It's not this doom and gloom that everyone's like, well, they're done now. They can't continue without a fairly decent job of it. And so love this record.
All right, Mike.
All right, I guess that's me.
Yeah.
So 6 for me is one that's been talked about, and that is The Dark Clouds and Silver Linings. I think, number 6 is a good spot for it. Last one with Portnoy on it. I love the light and the dark about that because this is what this album's all about. It's kind of one of the last true, well, not the last true concept albums because you have, The Astonishing, but like tough time, there's going to be some silver linings behind it. And through, that's kind of what gets you through. And you have that right from A Night to Remember. And I am one of the weird individuals that I don't mind Mike Portnoy's growls. I think it adds a spice of fun to it. And I'm like, y'all just don't like fun, okay? The
It
guy's
is
having
fun.
fun.
It
Let
is
him have
fun.
his fun, okay? Like, is he the next, Michael Ackerfeld? No, he is not. But the boy's having fun. So yeah. And as cheesy as the Count of Tuscany is, I still love, the instrumentations through it. The Best of Times is one of my favorite Dream Theater tracks. My dad and I listen to it all the time. That's his favorite track from Dream Theater. So like, I gotta give that to him. And yeah, Shattered Fortress is great. And I actually like how it's presented here on vinyl rather than the CD, because it groups, the Shattered Fortress with Rite of Passage, which I'm not a big fan of Rite of Passage, but groups those two, and then Wither and Time. A little bit of cohesive flow in that. So I actually like how it flows in this one. So that's number 8. I know a lot of people that love this record, but I also know a lot of people that don't like this album. And I'm kind of, 6 is kind of where I'm at. It's I like it. Now we're getting into the spicy takes. Are you ready? Here we go. Number 5 is Images and Words.
Oh.
I am here with Images and Words. I have a special edition. This is the anniversary edition, so it has like the little, I have album hand numbered.
Nice.
I don't like it all that much because they split it up into 2 discs, and I'm not a big fan of that, but still I have it. And this is the one that started it all. This is the one that put the album, made a little bit of a splash. This was the proof, like this was them taking the ball and running with it. So I don't know what else to say about it. I love Metropolis Part 1. I love the balance of this record. I love the harsh and the soft. Glass Moon, Waiting for Sleep, and Take the Time. They're this kind of like light metal. Like it's not the harsh metal, it's not the aggressive metal, and this is for me, where this album shines the most. It's kind of these softer moments that still have the energy. So yeah, I know I love this album. Just because it's number 5 doesn't mean it's a bad album. I love this record. It's just I love the other ones a little bit more. So yeah, that's where this went. And finally, one that hasn't been talked about, so I know I'm going to ruffle 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence at number 4. I know. Now, love this record. Again, it's number 4. Number 4 in a 15 discography. That's really, really good. You know, there's only 3 up and 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. And I mean, I know you guys are going to be talking a lot about this record, so I don't want to beat a dead horse. The full, 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, sweet, brilliant, beautiful, love it. I love The Glass Prison. I love Blind Faith. Misunderstood might be one of my favorites from this album, and I feel like it doesn't get the love and attention that it deserves because Blind Faith, The Glass Prison, and The Great Debate always kind of overshines it, as well as Disappear. Like Disappear is like so heartfelt. The only qualm I have with this record, it's a very small qualm, is on the vinyl, they had to put Disappear as the first point of the 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence suite. Yeah, so the first side is Prison. Second side is Misunderstood, The Great Debate. Third side is Disappear, and then starts into 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. So if I want to listen to the 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, I got to listen to Disappear first, which is fine, but that's not how you start 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence.
No,
So that's
You
my
think
only-
that's bad? You think that's bad? I have the cassette copy.
Oh. Ooh.
There's
Oh, boy.
Disappear isn't even on it. They just
Oh,
straight up left it off, and
Oh,
I think
no.
like half the first disc is radio edits.
oh no, but
Ooh,
that's like the
yikes.
whole point is that you have 6 songs on it.
'Cause
That's
you
why the
couldn't
6th
fit
song
it on
is
one
the 6
cassette.
Degrees of Inner Turbulence. So
Wow.
I have the record and I have the CD here, but yeah, love 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. After I talk about my first 3, this was my deep dive into Dream Theater. So that's 6, 5, and 4 for me.
I've
All right.
struggled wanting to buy the vinyl of that, but for that very reason, I haven't.
It's tough, right? I have to
Yeah.
like find this first song for 6 Degrees and then drop the needle there. And sometimes I catch it and sometimes I don't. Yeah.
All right,
So,
I
yeah.
guess we're on to my number 6. So number 6 for me, When Dream and Day Unite. It's a high ranking of this album for Among Us because, but it is a first album, bit of a pass on some of its more interesting choices, but I mean, how could you not love an album with Itzy Jam as its instrumental? I mean, that's such a good instrumental track. A Fortune in Lies is a great opening track. The Killing Hand is just one of the most underrated Dream Theater songs of all time. It's even one of the few Dream Theater songs where I'm in love with the lyrics. I love the storytelling of it. I mean, even some really other like underrated tracks, like the ones who helped to set the sun, Afterlife, really great songs, and then Only a Matter of Time. What a way to end the record. Now, before we did this, I had alluded to the idea that I had ranked some other releases, and I'm not going to say where I rank these, but Majesty demos a little bit, because that was an interesting release to put alongside. Chris Collins is not a very good vocalist.
No, he's not.
But you could tell from where the roots of this band really came from. They really were going with that sort of Queensryche meets Rush kind of mentality. And it's like once you've listened to the Majesty demos and you come back to When Dream and Day Unite, it suddenly raised that as like, yeah. So number 5, Falling into Infinity. I absolutely love this record. Um, it's easily, well, it's in my top 5 of Dream Theater records. What more do I have to say? I mean, it's a really good collection of songs. The fact that it is a bit of a troubled record, it does have its effect on like when you have like the guy that writes Bon Jovi songs in the studio with you, you know you've had some bad luck with your record label. Um, but I mean, Peruvian Skies, Hollow Years is the reason I own a classical guitar. Um, Hell's Kitchen, another wonderful instrumental. I feel like none of us have really talked about songs like Just Let Me Breathe, which, that's a pretty badass. Take Away My Pain is another really underrated Dream Theater song. Like, probably the most underrated Dream Theater song. Nobody ever. It's one of those songs no one talks about.
Great vocal performance, too.
But it's such a well written song. And try. Gotta love it. And then, again, like with the last one I talked about, I have to talk about another release, and that's the Falling into Infinity demos. Imagine if a song like Raise the Knife had made it onto Falling into Infinity. I mean, I don't want to imagine if Metropolis Part 2 was around in its primordial form, because we would be missing one of the greatest progressive metal albums of all time. But it is fun to think about. It's like maybe there's an alternate universe out there where they were allowed to do Falling into Infinity the way they had theorized it in their heads, and there is a version of it that's with Metropolis Part 2 as a single 25-minute epic. So, yeah, Falling into Infinity, really great album. It represents something that's a little bad for Dream Theater, but I feel like we wouldn't have had the albums that came after it were it not for Falling into Infinity. Falling into Infinity pissed them off so much that they went into the studio for its follow-up with a fire in their bellies and immediately proceeded to create one of the greatest works known to mankind. So you wouldn't have that without Falling into Infinity. Number 4, Images and Words. I know a lot of us are not ranking it, but I still say, it is quintessential Dream Theater. This is, even though it's not in my podium positions for Dream Theater, this is still, if I had to introduce a new fan to Dream Theater, if somebody came to me, big Dream Theater fan, what's this band all about? I would simply hand them a copy of Images and Words and say, have fun. Because it is everything Dream Theater would become after that. And even though I really love When Dream and Day Unite, you can almost kind of think of Images and Words as their real proper debut. That was when they brought in James LaBrie. That was when the songwriting really shifted from this sort of Queensryche meets Rush mentality, like the Yes references, and they're really going ham on those time signature changes. I mean, Metropolis Part 1 is still what I think of when I think of classic Dream Theater. Words, number 4 album, but I think like in an objective sort of way, it's a number 1. But for me, it's my number 4 album just because I like my podium places better.
Well said.
Speaking of podium places, here we go. Okay, right. This is where I
Top
get
3.
Okay. Let's get it out of the way. Top three. Okay. Number 3 is 6 Degrees, baby. Oh yeah, we love 6 Degrees. I freaking love 6 Degrees. Oh my God, honest to God. Incredible. the only double disc they've ever put out, and I really want another one. Like, come on, I'm greedy.
Let's
I'm
not
greedy.
forget about the astonishing.
Flower cake.
Let's not forget about the
That never
astonishing.
happened.
Well,
Okay.
actually,
The only good double disc they've done.
I kind of tried to forget the astonishing happened, but you know. Anyway, yeah, incredible, absolutely unbelievable record. The 42-minute epic alone, one of the best things they've ever composed. A lot of it speaks to me. You know, I suffer from a great deal of mental health issues myself, which I hide behind a veneer of silliness. Haha. And it really did help me a lot. You know, when I've been to therapy multiple times across my time on this earth. A lot of the themes and motifs explored within the title track, 6 Degrees of Turbulence, they really speak to me. But it's not just about the personal connection that I feel with the music on this and the lyricism and everything. It's just how bold this record feels, how they were willing to push the envelope in terms of dramatic differentials from the band. You tell me that songs like Misunderstood, like Disappear, they don't exist outside of this album. They are the only tracks of this particular style, this engaging kind of thought experimentation that they were doing with this particular part of their career, and it is wonderful. Yeah. The Glass Prison is obviously your standard rocker, but it's a really, really good one. Oh. Blind Faith, again, weird politicization with the lyrics, but whatever, we can look past that for whatever your particular stance on the may be. You can't deny that it's a rocker of a track. But it all comes down to me to how effective the title track is at really ticking the boxes for things that I've experienced and how I can relate to it. Incredible album by the top two. So we can kind of figure out what the top two are based off what's been said so far. But I'm going to make it interesting because I'm just going to hold them both up because you know what they are. So I'm going to hold them both up, right? Top two, right here. And we're going to... So, it's one of these days. No, whoa. These two... Whoa, wacky. Check this guy out for his opinions. Wow. No, any given Sunday, these two are interchangeable. But today, because y'all have been dunking on my baby, I've decided to put it on the top spot. Number two, Scenes from a Memory. Unbelievable album. Again, I have a deep, deep personal connection with this. This really came to me at a time where I needed it. One of the first albums I actively remember obsessing over when it comes to like the story, the concept, just everything in terms of like how deep it went and how I uncovered things and discovered parts of the story and the more I listened to it, because I didn't really have a lot of internet access at the time that I got this, so I kind of had to figure it out for myself for the most part, which was kind of fun. Incredible. There's not much I can really say about Scenes from a Memory that's not been said by 1,000 people across 1,000 websites already, but it's just got so many of the band's best songs. The cohesion of everything and the way it sort of moves and flows together is perfect. Unbelievable. The spirit carries on. That's what's playing when I'm dead, man. I'm telling you now, when I'm burning up in the casket, I want not a dry eye in the house, and JP's got friggin' ashes, baby. Incredible album. Unbelievable. But for me, Awake just cinches it, man. Awake is unduly being dismissed by this panel, I might add. And I will frown upon you all with such disdain as a result. I love Awake. Awake is, for me, Dream Theater doing edgy and doing it right. This is not angst. This is dark. You know, Images and Words is a bright and bubbly, hopeful album. You know, there is a lot of faith and a lot of excitement and potential. And then they turned a corner with Awake and they made something dark, something really sinister in places. And I love it for that. My musical preferences do lean on the darker side of things. So maybe it was only natural that I would move to Awake for this. But for me, you've got, I mean, 6 o'clock is a class opening. That drum fill that kicks things off. Wow. Unbelievable. It is a Christmas song. Thank you. Absolutely, it is a Christmas song. Honest to God, I listen to 6 o'clock every Christmas. It's the first song I listen to every Christmas because, frankly, 6 o'clock on a Christmas morning, of God, Mary Jane, and all that sort of thing. It's what we do. But it also contains my favorite Dream Theater song of all time on it, which is Scarred. Scarred is, for my money, the best Dream Theater song of all time. It is the best vocal performance of James LaBrie of all time. Album with one of the most unique, haunting, and impactful songs the band has ever recorded with Space Die Vest. Kevin Moore's swan song, unbelievable piece of music, absolutely perfect. Don't even get me started on A Mind Beside Itself as well with the rock man. Because now there's an epic right there. Let's give it its dues and put them all together. They're listed separately, but we all know it's part of the same thing. It's whatever. Yeah. There is not a single moment on this album that I do not love. There is not a single moment on this album that is wasted, and I forever and ever be fighting and in eternal conflict with Scenes from a Memory as to which is my favorite Dream Theater album. But like I say, because of the disrespect I've heard today for my beautiful, precious, perfect angel baby child, I'm sticking it on the top spot despite a lot of you. Ha ha!
I always thought, and maybe I'm wrong, and this is the perfect panel to ask this to. In 6 o'clock, is it Mary Jane and Aunt May from Spider-Man that are talking?
No.
Because that's who I always thought it was. Because it's like, because she says, "Is it so, Aunt May?" And she's like, "I know all about the Order of God, Mary Jane." And I'm like, well, that's Aunt May and Mary Jane from Spider-Man.
There's like a master list of like all the movie samples that they've used in their music somewhere on the internet, and I've got to find it again.
Okay. Somebody actually
did. Yeah, somebody actually did like a video with like the actual clips from the movies over Dream Theater's music, and I
could Google it myself, but I would much rather be Jane.
I won't lie, I initially thought it. I really, really did. Apparently, it's from a 1987 movie called The Dead.
The Dead?
The Dead from 1987, apparently.
Ooh, 1987, good year. Very good year.
Clearly. But yes, that's my number one. And I will fight you all about it.
All right, quickly, my number 3 is 6 Degrees. Can't say anything that hasn't already been said. Second is Octavarium.
Yeah.
Just due to the range, that's why it really speaks to me. And because this was my first introduction to the band, it will always be my number one. Nothing will ever replace it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Nathan?
All right. I probably have one of the more like basic, predictable top 3s of all time, but let's do it. I've got number 3, 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence.
Good choice.
It was probably the one that like was out most recently when I was getting into the band, so it's one of the first ones I picked up and fell in love with. In fact, the Glass Prison, I think, is the first Dream Theater song I ever heard. In fact,
same here.
Yeah. Number 2 is Images and Words. It's just a classic. That they produce an album this great so early in their career is like mind-blowing to me. It just has like every track is just a classic track that I just at the time I love, Surrounded, Metropolis Part 1, Learning to Live. They're just all classics. Like every single track comes on and it's like, oh yeah, this is amazing. So I have to give it its respect for just what it did to spark the great. And then finally, number 1, no question, is Scenes from Memory, which is like the first true album I really dug into with them and just was obsessed with and listened to constantly. It brought me into prog metal as a genre. Before I was a little bit like, it's a little too heavy for me. I'm not sure if this is my kind of thing. I don't really like metal music that much. But this changed the game for me, and I totally understood why everyone loved this and why it was such a cool genre and what they could do, the storyline. I love concept albums, so it drew me in right away. And a lot of their prog tendencies, especially with Jordan Rudess in the band, and some really cool instrumental moments and some really cool like heartfelt moments like Spirit Carries On. It just has like everything I want in music and more. It's one of my all-time favorite, not just Dream Theater's favorite albums of all time. So Really love it, and it's a worthy number one, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. I guess that goes to me then. So I am going to protect my baby. Everybody else has been my sweet bean, my number one cheese, Systematic Chaos, number three.
Whoa, okay.
I
Systematic
was
Chaos.
waiting for that one to come up.
I haven't talked about it
Okay.
yet because that's my number three. Yeah, y'all, what are you doing to my baby? This is my baby, my sweet cheese. I love this album. So this was the first new album from Dream Theater that I listened to. I bought it on opening day. I was a fool and I got rid of the slipcover, so I have the special edition. But it's I was a fool. Okay, I was 20 years old. Okay, so I was just like, I don't need the slipcover. Yeet. Right, and I'm like, no, what will protect my baby? So, yeah. I love this one. As I mentioned, this was the first new release from them. In the Presence Part 1 and 2. Absolutely love. Absolutely love. Forsaken is the only track on this record that I could kind of take or leave, but even then, I still really enjoy it. Constant Motion is like, it's very much a part of me. There's a part of me that's always in constant motion, have to be productive. Otherwise, I'm not contributing to society. And this, I am no longer a person and I need to be just left out onto a farm. So it's like, on this record, I love Dark Eternal Night. Okay, I know a lot of people think it's stupid. I know a lot of people think it's quirky and silly. I love it. I love the tale of a monster just coming and destroying. I love that. Okay, it's so fun. Repentance. I know a lot of people think it's boring. I think it's emotional. I think it's so good. I love everybody that's in the mix in that, where Mike Portnoy was just like calling up all of his prog friends and metal friends and being like, hey, you want to provide me with a quick snippet of something that you regret? I know it's super personal, but it's going to be on an album. The people, I'd really appreciate that. So I love that. It was the first track that I tested my like really big headphones on. It's my go-to testing out a sound equipment with, because of like the dynamics of that track. Prophets of War, even though I'm not, it's fine. It's the political messaging. It's always kind of, but I still love the groove. I love the music and I love the bump. Ministries of Lost Souls is maybe my second favorite track from them. I love how emotive it is. I love the story. It's so heartbreaking. I love the guitar solo in the middle. I love the play out. It's so good. I love my little sweet child, and I'm going to protect it because it's mine and my own. So yeah, number 3 is love it. I am going to do what a lot of people are doing, and I'm going to say, just to protect my other sweet bean that everybody has been bursting on. Number 2 is going to be this boy. It's going to be, Metropolis Part 2, Scenes from a Memory. Any Other Day, I would say that this is my favorite. This and the album I'm going to be talking about was my introduction to the band. I listened to Overture 1929 and Strange Deja Vu on the Prog Archives. That on one day they uploaded that track as well as another track, and I immediately fell in love. I went to the HMV, and this was back in the day when I had to order all of my prog records, and they're like, you don't have to order this, we have it in stock. I'm like, you have a prog record I can take home today? And they're like, yeah, man, allow me to introduce you to Dream Theater, Opeth, and Mastodon. I'm like, I don't know what to do with myself. So I picked up this record and instantly fell in love with it. This was them proving to the world that they could work for themselves and not have to answer to a record label or somebody else's vision. Honestly, it's one of the few perfect albums as well, from start to finish. There's nothing on here that I could say that is bad. And we've talked about it to death, so I'm going to leave it there so I can spend more time. My number 1 album they all don't seem to like very much, and it's Octavarium.
Ooh, number 1.
Number 1 is Octavarium, you guys. This and Scenes from a Memory, the first 2 records that I heard from Dream Theater, and this was the first one that I dug deep into. Memory off to the side, because this Panic Attack was the first track that I ever heard. because again, somebody uploaded it to the Prog archives. I listened to that one and I absolutely fell in love with it because I suffer from an anxiety disorder. And so Panic Attack very resonates with me because all of the symptoms that I feel are in the song. It's so fun. So I love that because I immediately saw myself in the track. It was one of the few times that I see myself in the music, and I'm like, that is amazing. I love how each track is set in a different like scale, like a different note sequence on the octave, hence the whole octavarium. I actually enjoy, much as it's been pointed out, the variety of tracks on here. I don't okay, this one's a Muse track. Okay, this one's a Coldplay track. This one's a, but they're doing the best iteration of those tracks. Like Coldplay has never written a better track that we have found on this record. Muse, even though it's one of my favorite, bands, have never song. So it's like, okay, I still love those tracks. And so much of, what I was dealing with at the time is found on this. And much like Ian was saying, don't even get me started with Octavarium. That title track, one of the best, if not the best, epics that has ever been written. It's everything that I love about progressive rock. It has a reprise from the beginning to the end that ties everything together. The overall concept and theme is played throughout it. It has different motifs and different like vignettes that are disjointed but aren't just carbon copies of something that came before. So yeah, I love this one. It's my favorite record. Even if a gun to my head, I would probably say that Scenes from a Memory is probably a better and critically acclaimed album. It is my darling. I will protect it. It is mine.
Respect.
I love this record, even though I know a lot of people don't like it. And yeah, so I also love, and I know it's been pointed out to death, you have the strings and the bird are the piano. It's the black bars on the piano.
Yep.
And I know
Oh, it
everybody's
goes
just like,
deeper
"Oh,
than
yeah."
that.
Oh, it
Yeah,
does.
it's like,
It's
yeah,
crazy.
So like just those little nuggets, those little things. And this album has been out now for like what, 20 years,
Really?
25
Yeah.
years. And we're
20
yeah,
years
it's
next
coming
year.
up to its 20. Yeah, it's coming up to its 20th anniversary. We're
Wow.
still finding little Easter eggs that are still like hidden in this album. So I'm gonna stop. That's my number one. Don't you talk bad about my Octavarium.
All right,
That's me.
I guess that brings us round to me for my top three. So, first of all, for Octavarium, I will say, as much as I absolutely eviscerated that record, it it is a very important record to me in my life, and yeah, there are some really cool nuggets about that record. Like especially you mentioned like the black keys and like yeah, it's like the keys of the piano. Did you know each song actually goes up in key signature?
Yeah,
Like the
that's
first
what I
song is in
mentioned.
F minor, then the next is in G minor, and it
Mhm.
yeah, I always
Yeah.
thought that was kind of cool actually. All right, so
Yeah.
my number
And I
three
think
record is
yeah, on the
Awake.
CD it's actually listed where they are
Oh
supposed to
yeah,
be.
yeah,
Yeah.
and anyway,
Anyway.
yeah, my number three record, Awake, and you know, Images and Words is objectively the better record, but I think I like Awake more. It's for one, I'm a metal fan, I originally came to Dream Theater because I was looking for a band that mixed Rush and Metallica. So somebody recommended Dream Theater, and yeah, this is the first album that they do where John Petrucci uses his seven-string guitar every song, but he uses it to great effect. I mean, The Mirror is probably the first, like the world's first gent song,
It's so good. I
and I
love it.
it's got that like little harmonic pick scrape thing at the beginning that literally is now. You could trace its origin back to The Mirror. Um, you have epic tracks like Scarred. Doesn't get talked about enough, I find.
No,
That's a
it doesn't.
great track. Um, lifting shadows off a dream is the reason I wanted a delay pedal on my board so bad, so I could get that echo guitar, but like the precisely timed echoes. What makes that guitar riff so unique. God, I just love that like instrumental section, which isn't really a solo, but it's like this riff, and it's chromatic, and yet when they play it in like Latin America, like the crowd sings the riff along. It's so incredible. And then you've got like the trio of Erotomania voices, the Silent Man. Really, really great writing on this album. And yeah, 6 o'clock full opening track for the album. That opening drum fill, hype every time. So Awake, I really, really love this record. And I feel like I can't talk about Awake without that, even though it kind of traces to both before and after this era, a change of seasons. Because a change of seasons to me is kind of a logical continuation of Awake, with it's that darkness of the 7-string guitar, and I feel like you could put the track A Change of Seasons on Awake and it would fit, even though you have a completely different lineup on that song, and the song traces its origin to era, but it's still a great supplemental to Awake. All right, so my number one and my number two, I think, like a lot of us, it depends on the day of the week for me. Like one time it could be my number one, sometimes it's my number two. My number two today is Metropolis Part 2, Scenes from a Memory. Um, Perfect concept album. It's just one of those records that demands that you listen to it from beginning to end. You can't just pick a chapter. It's like picking up a book and reading a random chapter. Like, who does that? No, this is one that you got. And I had the pleasure of seeing Dream Theater perform this entire album live with Michael, in fact,
Nice.
when they were doing their Distance Over Time and 20th anniversary of Metropolis tour. And it was just so amazing to see them play this album in front of us. I sang along very poorly pretty much the entire time, and I was a bawling wreck. It was so good, even despite the technical difficulties during one of the songs. Um, just an incredible record. If I didn't like my number one choice more than this, I'd say this. My number one's gotta be 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. You never forget your first time, and I actually remember exactly what it was that introduced me to Dream Theater. It's kind of a funny story. So I mentioned that I looked behind, Russian Metallica. Well, where I was looking, because, this is before the days of social media, before the days of, like, I wasn't really a member of any, like, bulletin board forums or anything like that. But I was very active on powertabs.net, a guitar tablature sheet music website where users of PowerTab editor software would upload their transcriptions of people's works. And I'd made a couple of friends on there and used their forums, and I had asked around a bit, like, my favorite bands are Metallica and Rush, like, but I've listened to everything they've got. Can you recommend me some new music? And this one guy says, "Well, have you ever heard of Dream Theater?" I hadn't, but uh, but in like the submission queue that day for new guitar tabs was The Glass Prison by Dream Theater. I thought, well, I know that if I download the file, Power Tab Editor can play the guitar part as MIDI, so I'll at least get an opportunity to hear what the track kind of sounds like before I actually listen to it. But I also want to print this tab out. And my school library, because I didn't have internet at home, the tab was 53 pages long. I pissed the librarian off so bad. Oh my god, she wouldn't let me near the printer for like the next month. After I printed out 53 pages of guitar tablature for the glass prison. And when I heard the MIDI, I'm like, okay, this is really cool. So I got in touch with a family member that had the internet and for downloading music, and he burned me a couple of CDs with the album on it. And I think same as with Ian, the title track is really important to me because like Ian, I have a lot of mental health issues. I suffer from depression. I'm on the autism spectrum. There's a lot of other things that this album really pulls at my heartstrings with its lyrics, and I think the message at the end of it, you know, um, sorry, I'm trying to find the lyrics for it here, but just the message at the very end of this record is so important, and I think it's something we all need to take to heart. Shame, mental unrest keeps us from saving those we love, the grace within our hearts and the sorrow in our souls. It's such a beautiful message. Hope in the face of our human distress and the turbulence deep inside. We as a society shouldn't be shunning people with mental health problems. We should be breaking those stigmas. We should be learning to embrace that which makes us. And as a neurodivergent person myself, this track holds a very special place for me. So just for that alone, 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence is my favorite Dream Theater record. But again, we have to mention there's some really fantastic material on there. Misunderstood, a completely interesting style that Dream Theater would never really accomplish again. Disappear, another completely gorgeous piece of writing. My best friend and I don't see eye to eye politically, and this song is kind of fun for us because it kind of pits us against each other, but it also kind of reminds us sometimes we do need to try to the other side of a debate. That they have their reasons for believing what they do. Blind Faith. Here's a fun factoid about that song that might pique Ian's attention. John Petrucci plays bass.
What the hell?
So it's not, and John Mayung still plays bass as well.
Huh.
The guitar part is actually played on a Music Man Silhouette 6-string bass, short scale, like 30-inch scale.
Oh.
It's like a Fender Bass 6.
Yeah, for sure,
So
for sure.
technically a bass guitar, it's tuned A to A, so it's a baritone guitar. Like by modern standards, we'd call it a baritone,
sure.
but that instrument was marketed as a bass, so it's a little bit Spinal Tappy there.
That's kind of cool. I never knew that. That's actually really cool. That is cool.
Yeah, it's another one of those like really great pieces of writing from Dream Theater. I really like the piano work from. That was the track that really like made me think more highly of piano in rock music. Yeah, 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, my #1 Dream Theater album.
We've all had different #1 picks. Ah,
I love that.
That makes me
I
happy.
love you
That
guys.
makes me
That's
very
great.
happy.
Yeah.
I love that.
So good.
yeah.
And mine was the best.
Of course, of course, of course.
We all had the best.
We
Of course.
all of ours except Octavarium was the best.
Oh,
I don't worry. I love I like Octavarium. The thing is, Dream Theater, even a dramatic turn of events, which was my last, I will still give it the time of day. Dream Theater is one of those bands that at their worst, I'll still
Still
take them
good.
over
Yeah.
90% of what's out there, you know?
except for self-titled, I can get in the sea, but whatever.
But I don't know. This excited for what's coming next.
Better be good or I'll be mad.
Exactly. What do you think it's going to be?
Metropolis
Terrible.
Part 3.
Think so?
Yeah, I wish. I wish.
No, it's gonna be self-titled part 2.
Oh Jesus!
Octavarium.
Don't even. Don't. No, they're actually going to use AI this time round. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm trying to keep my expectations low. I'm excited for Mike Portnoy to be back. Obviously, that's very, very cool. I love that. But yeah, it's just gonna be. They can hype it up as much as they want. Jordan was going on the wheel of prog and dream that theater fans are going to lose their minds. I'm like, yeah, this is his marketing spiel. Shut up, It's like, we'll make our own decisions when it comes out, my guy. What'll happen is there'll be the single, which will be the hard rocking metal song, and James will be like, nah, and then JP will be like, and it'll be a Dream Theater song. It'll probably be fine, but I'm gonna reserve judgments until the actual album comes
I hope they
out.
don't take themselves too serious and just put out something they want to.
I Mike's return to the band has got them kind of thinking in terms of like just going all in on something wild,
I hope so.
Especially like they're getting up there in age.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't want to say that this could be their last album, but I don't imagine they have very many more albums, especially like album tour cycles left in them.
Especially
Eventually,
Jordan's
they're going to
early
slow
70,
down.
so
I know, yeah.
Portnoy and his commitments too, like
Portnoy's got like a million things going on outside
Busy
of Dream
boy.
Theater. Yeah, I mean,
we'll see what happens.
maybe they want to go out on a high note.
Maybe. I'm optimistic that we will hopefully see something which isn't just Dream Theater by numbers. I think they understand that they need to be something special with this release.
Oh, I'd love them to reinvent themselves.
Oh yeah, same. Why not become a ska band for funsies? Like why not?
I would love that.
That'd be hilarious. Oh, good times.
All right.
All right, guys, it's been really enjoyable. We should do this
Great
again
time.
with another top band.
Would love to.
And
Absolutely.
let's have some throw around some ideas. And as always, guys, take care of each other, love each other, support each other, and we'll see you next time in the video. Good night, guys.
See you next time.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.